Boom! What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Kenny Parker Show. We do this every Tuesday and Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you, everybody, for being here on a Friday. Now, you could be a lot of places. It's now summertime, my favorite time of the year, but you are here. And B-Boy Jones, and you are first in the building today. Says, yo, 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 ER crew in the house. Big up to the early regulars. Yes. Kenneth Smith, what's up? Um, Riding Dirty Face, what up? Uh, Gregory Nettis, what up? Since Gregory Nettis, since Spook Realm 4Q is not first today, but he's always still number one. We're going to do the PSA real quick. Number one, for those that's new to the channel or regulars, if you don't have the book already, get the book. The link is in the description below. It's the true origin story of BDP. I say it each week. I say it every time because some of the questions you guys ask me on this channel, I go into great detail in the book. The link is in the description below. If you don't have the book, get the book. Second, shout out to Tracy. Please hit the thumbs up, the like button. It helps the algorithm. And so we can bring more like-minded people to the channel. And last but not least, big up to the Rewind crew who's going to check this out later on. Let me make this a little bit bigger so I can see. I see you guys talking about the NBA draft, which I did not check out. So I'm not going to comment too much. Rod Justice, what up? Rod Justice says, today in hip hop history, I always love these. Pharoah Monch, my man, released his second solo album, Desire, on June 26, 2007. Pick up the Pharoah Monch. Monch. I said Munch. um, every time I've ever seen him, it's been all love. Shout him out. Abel Valdez, thank you so much for your contribution to the channel. Says, peace, Kenny. I'm off to Spain this Wednesday. Dope. I'm scared as hell of that long ass flight. I hate flying. I hate flying. And I hate turbulence. And I hate sitting there for 8 hours. I just did the same flight you're about to do about 2 months ago. But hopefully you can get some rest. The trick is to try to sleep as much as you can. And do you have any good music to check out? Music can put you in a good vibe. Make a nice playlist and try to get some sleep. But it's 8 hours. It's 8 hours. You got to thug it out. But congratulations, off to Spain. That is dope. I enjoyed Spain while I was out there. J Woo 72, VHS Hip Hop Piece. Spook Realm says, I'm tardy today, but we're celebrating my mother and stepfather's 33rd anniversary. So I'll dip in when I can. I'm going to try and have to join the Rewind crew. All good, Spook Realm. You already know. Let's see. Reggie 1023, what up? Patrick Y, Northeast Bronx, the Valley. Sally from the Valley. Shout out to the Valley. Shout out to Co-op City. Sydney Rhodes, what up? Silk Child, what up? What's good, bro? Where everybody hit that like support? Yes, please hit the like. Silk Child, of course. I love to see the regulars. We got the regulars and we got the people that have been down since 3 years. This channel's been up for 3 years. More than 3 years. Um, Yo, Kenny, can we get a Just Ice interview part 2? That would be dope. Haven't had any interviews here in a while. I'm still working on it, but um, that would be dope. Shout out to my man Just. Rosmel, what up? Yes, Tracy. Happy Friday. Hit the like button. Ilroy the MC, what up? Come down, Kenny Parker. Isaiah Winbrone. What if KRS and Rakim did a collabo album? You mean now, or what if meaning back then? I think it would be great. Um, Aaron Logan, what up? Rakim is still upset that he wasn't part of self-destruction. Yes, he is. He held that grudge for decades, almost 40 years. Um, when, if ever, I get KRS on the channel, that's going to be one of the first questions I ask him. What happened with that behind the scenes? Who decided, how I know Chris had a major factor in who made the album, made the song, but also Jive did as well. So there was a lot of politics behind the scenes. I already know partially the answer to that question, but um, I'll let Chris decide that. Let me move down a little bit. Real Chef Daddy, what up? Don Dallas TV, what up? Samuel Gervais, what up? Christopher Caldwell. Seen a lot of the crew in the building today. Hold on. Trying to make sure I could see everybody. Jack Swagger, what up? China Doll, what's good, Cynthia? Happy blessed Friday. I know I'm putting your government out there, Cynthia. I'm gonna call you China Doll. I will not say Cynthia anymore. I can see her face right now. It's funny. Patrick Sargent, what up? KP, what's your take of Giannis to the Heat and LaMelo to the Timberwolves? As big as those names are, I see them as lateral movements almost. I don't see those as changing. I don't see Giannis to the Heat. It makes them a better team, of course, but I don't see it as earth shaking. And LaMelo to the Wolves, I don't know if I see that as earth shaking. They're definitely going to be better, but I don't see that as significantly better. LaMelo's going to have the ball more, which means Ant's going to have the ball less. Ant is one of those high volume guys. So Ant-Man is going to have to make a little bit of an adjustment because you want LaMelo to have the ball. But they gave away a three-point shooting big man. They gave away. They don't have their front line really. Well, their big guy coming off the bench, and they gave away a all-star level player in Minnesota. So Julius Randle. So I don't know. I'm not jumping up and down. It's cool. It remains to be seen. That's what I'll say. DJ Joey Joe Kenny, watch any good movies or TV shows recently? I've lowered my expectations to be happy watching certain streaming shows. And I found myself watching reruns of old stuff that I like Top Boy. I thought was dope. For those of you that didn't see Top Boy on Netflix, I encourage you to watch that all the way from the beginning. I think there's 3 seasons that Drake produced, but then there's a season before that. You got to see all of them. I think that's a dope show. But really, as a UFO buff, I went and saw Disclosure this week, and Steven Spielberg is a legendary, right at the top of the greatest directors of all time. I was not happy with that being the first summer blockbuster coming out. And I spent, movie ticket prices are ridiculous right now. So I'm very cautious of movies that I go to see. Um, but I went to see that, and I wasn't happy. I don't know if I'm going. The next movie I'm going to see, of course, is Spider-Man, Marvel, of course. I think that comes out July 31st. After that, I don't see myself going to the movies for a while. And my girl Emily Blunt, I rock with Emily Blunt hard. So it was Emily Blunt and Steven Spielberg, and a subject that I like. And I felt like I could have done this movie better. We all feel like we could be directors, but not happy with Disclosure. So the answer to your question is really no. 1212. Thank you so much for your contribution to the channel. What up, KP? Any progress on Grand Pooh interview? He visited my HBCU back in the day. He talked to me and my friend after the show. I still got his autograph. I consider Grand Pooh a good homie. I consider all of Brand New Beings homies. I asked Grand Pooh to come on the channel. Um, at the time, he said he couldn't do it. Uh, so maybe I'll reach out and ask again. When I ask somebody and they say they can't do it, whatever, in my mind, I just move on. But I did ask him, and he said he couldn't do it. This was last year, um, 2025. So maybe I'll double back and ask him again. It would be great to get Grand Pooh. Um, I asked the doc to come a couple months ago. I asked the doc 3 months ago. I asked the doc to come back too. He said he would. So this is a matter of me setting things up. But shout out to Grand Pooh. He has a very interesting story. To me, he's one of the biggest hip hop what ifs. They have this thing on YouTube called Stunted Growth, where they talk about musicians and they talk about players, sports people that I love the word trajectory on this channel, y'all. And they were on a trajectory to a certain level, and something happened that stunted their growth. And I believe Grand Poobah is one of the biggest stunted growths ever. And there's reasons behind that. And I would love to talk to him about it. So to answer your question, I might have to double back on that. But he initially said he couldn't do it. So Jason Wall, what up? Uh, let's see. Explicit say, yeah, distract yourself on that flight. Yeah, as much as you can. I say get as much sleep as you can. 8 hours. Um, I remember one time I was coming years ago. This had to be 92-ish, late 93, coming back from France, coming back from Paris, bunch of us. And I was sitting next to KRS-One's now wife, G. Simone, and on a plane, I was saying, man, I don't know how I'm gonna get through it. It was like 7 hours coming back. And I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna get through these 7 hours. I wish I could sleep, but it's hard for me to sleep on a plane. And she said, oh, I got a pill for you that you could take that'll help you. I don't know what this pill was. It was real small. I think it was brown. I don't know what it was, but she said, here, take this to help you sleep. I was like, I don't think this is gonna work because you gotta understand, it's very hard for me to sleep on a plane. She said, take this. I took the pill, and the next thing I know, the stewardess was tapping me, said, excuse me, sir, you have to put your seatbelt on. We're about to land in LaGuardia, New York. I said, what? Land? I was asleep for 7 hours. And last thing I remember, it was early in the flight. I took the pill. I don't know what she gave me, but I didn't eat. I didn't get up to use the men's room. I didn't put my seatbelt. I was out. So whatever that was, crazy. We laugh about that all the time. Me and her got some funny stories. I told her she should come on the channel. Me and her got about 4 or 5 hilarious stories that you guys would love. Shout out to G Simone. Let me scroll down a little bit. CMC, you already know what it do. Somebody asked me, do I know DJ Honda? No, I do not. Kurt Music, KP, can I send you a vinyl of my debut album? Sure. Hit me up on Instagram. Send me a DM, and I'll send you the address, and we'll make it happen. My Instagram is DJ Kenny Parker. I'm sure everybody on this channel follows me. I don't post that much, but I do check out other people's stuff. Swoop Rum says, don't get it twisted, KP. You don't remember me, but I've been here since the beginning. Back before I lost my phone and my YouTube, I was Marco Lopez. I'm an OG on that on your chat, my guy. I would consider you an OG. I didn't know. I don't even recognize that name, but I do consider you an OG, Spook Realm. Jermaine says, yo, Kenny, you're slipping on interviews. Yeah, haven't gone super hard to set. There's like a few people that I asked that said yes, and then we couldn't get the schedule right, or they said later on, and I have to double back. Some great interviews too. VHS Hip Hop says, Kevin, shout out Rakim and Chuck and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to go out on a limb right now. Somebody can fact check me. I believe BDP was the first groups to ever shout out groups from other groups that weren't in their crew in the history of rap on a major label. I'm going to go out on a limb. If y'all listen to The Bridge Is Over, 1987, the radio version, the one that has Red Alert going, yeah. The clean version, the video version. In the end, first of all, I just realized a couple years ago, the first shout out, it goes, super shout out to D Nice. I thought that was Scott LaRock talking, but now that I listen to the voice, that was D Nice shouting his own self out on the record. It goes, super shout out to D Nice. And then you hear KRS go, Melody. And then D Nice goes, MC Boo, which is Mick Boo, which is his cousin. And then Chris says, I see you. And then he says, Ultra, Magnetic. And I think D Nice said Scott LaRock Jr. or something like that, I think. And then KRS says, Eric B. and Rakim, something like that. So he shouted out Ultra and he shouted out Eric B. and Rakim, and then it fades out. But that was in 87. Nobody wasn't shouting out people like that on the records. And then on I'm Still Number One, of course, he says down with us. And he goes through a whole list of people who's down with us. People weren't doing that back then. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say BDP was one of the early shout outs of other crews. Now, if somebody could take me back before 87, or somebody shouting out somebody that's not part of their crew or signed to their label, because obviously, like, Fat Boys shouted out Curtis Blow. Yo, Kurt, make the record sound. You said, yo, KB, make the record sound so clear. But Curtis Blow was producing the Fat Boys, so he was, in the studio. I can't think of another group that shouted out a group, so we'll see. Philly Sheed, what up? Uh, T. Jackson says Kenny LaMelo shot a whopping 40% from the field last season. That marriage with Ant-Man ain't gonna work. For some reason, I remember him hitting a lot of threes. I don't know if he just got hot against the Lakers, uh, but I remember him hitting threes. But that's gonna be interesting because they were saying that Minnesota really needed a point guard. But I feel like they need a point guard who can get the ball to people like Ant-Man. But they just lost a ton of scoring. Losing Julius Randle. That was their second go-to guy. Where are they going to get 20 points a game from? Like I said, I'm not overwhelmed by that. But then again, it remains to be seen. Kenny, what is a UFO? A steel, an unidentified flying object. They don't even use that term anymore. They use unidentified UAP, unidentified aerial phenomenon. And I believe they changed the title because an unidentified flying object, they realize that these objects, that a government has acknowledged that there are objects in the sky that seem to be intelligent, that may not be of human origin. They practically said there's something going on, but they're not sure. But UAP is unidentified aerial phenomenon, meaning they're not even sure to call these things a flying object, because flying, as we understand it, is not what these things are doing. They're moving at speeds and stopping short on a dime, changing directions in a speed that defies our physical understanding of science. And some of these objects seem to disappear and reappear in certain places, almost like they're coming in and out of our dimension. So they added unidentified aerial phenomenon, which is different than an unidentified flying object. You ever seen a UFO? No. In some ways, I um in some ways I want to see one, but in some ways I'm terrified. Patrick Watson's Top Boy was dope. Yes, it was. Them British cats got me saying in it instead of isn't it. That's my favorite British phrase. Yeah, in it and bruv, bruv. You got the food, bruv. That show was really dope. It's like The Wire. Um, um, it's like The Wire in the UK. The acting is top notch. It's dope. China Doll says, all good. Not a problem with my government name. Not one in any states that I know of. Are you sure about that, China Doll? Felicia says, I heard Disclosure Day was trash. I don't like calling things trash. But considering, like I said, who's the director, who is the big star, people, and the budget is the top notch. The promotion is tight. It's the biggest money you could spend outside of a Marvel movie or a movie like this. People get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe more, maybe seven figures to write screenplays. And then it has to get approved by multiple people. And I'm like, this is a screenplay that you guys thought was dope? Like, the premise of the movie could have been so dope to me. They added a lot of things that just came out of nowhere with no explanation. Like, what is this? Not good to me, man. But I'm not going to call anything trash. I'm just going to say my opinion of Disclosure Day is wait for it to come on streaming services. Do not go to the movie theater like I did. Not trying to disrespect, but I expected a lot more. Silk Child, thank you so much for your you already, man. Thank you. Yo, KP, Fat Boys Crush Groove as Disco 3. Shout out Run DMC, Curtis Blow, and Grandmaster Flash and Furious 5 in 85. Damn. All right. Fat Boys Crush Groove as they were still a Disco 3. I thought they changed their name to the Fat Boys right after they were Disco 3. They came out with the song Fat Boys, and then I thought they changed their name right after that. But if you're saying the Fat Boys in Crush Groove, those are the people in the movie. Run DMC, Curtis Blow, Flash, like those are, I don't know. Are you talking about the movie Crush Groove? I mean, they're in the movie, they're shouting out other rappers in the movie. I don't know if I'm counting that. Now, if it's just a random record, I'm taking Curtis Blow out of the equation because that's part of their crew. But if they shouted Run DMC and Flash, then okay, 85. Please elaborate a little bit more on that, Silk Child. Was that in the movie? Grand Pooba didn't want to put the work in. Yeah, I've heard stories allegedly about his professionalism. I'm going to use that word. But there's more to the story still, though. Um, have I fallen super behind yet? Not super behind. Benny Doyle says, what up, Benny Doyle? Angie Doyle, what up? Langston Hughes gave way to Gil Scott Heron, who gave way to Chuck D. Did anyone follow after Chuck? And that conscious voice? Seems like the people that were out in the conscious realm with Public Enemy were all around the same time, like KRS, X Clan, couple others. And after 91 ish, 91 ish, I think the conscious era started to fade as the gangster era came into play. 92, the Chronic, NWA, second album, Ice Cube. I would say Ice Cube, if anybody, but he's almost parallel with Chuck D. So I wouldn't even call him after Chuck D, following Chuck D, because like they're parallel. So after 92, I feel like the Brand Nubian album was the last album to me that was really a Afrocentric theme. And De La talked about some things, but De La Soul is dead. But they weren't heavy conscious. They were a mixture of things. They were conscious one piece of it. Like Native Tongue was a few different things. That's why I liked them so much. I don't know if anyone took up the mantle after Chuck. The game changed so much. I mean, there's people that had conscious here and there, but not one person who like made a whole project like that. That was big. I mean, y'all guys can uh, come with your opinions. Silk Child, yes. They performed the track Let's Get Funky on stage in the movie. They shouted them out. Ah, I'm not counting that, Silk Child. In the movie, they shouted out the people in the movie. I'm not shouting that. I mean, I'm not counting that. BDP, Karis One shouting out. BDP and Ultra were really good friends, but they were two different labels, but they were good friends, really close. But KRS and shouting out Rakim is a whole different ballgame. In '87, Eric B. Rakim because back then BDP's crew, if he Ultra and Just Ice was really close with BDP, and Scott and Eric B were really close too. But KRS saying Rakim, that's a different to me. That Eric B and Rakim, shout out Eric B and Rakim was different to me. And then Criminal Minded album. Did they shout out anybody? I'd have to go back and listen, but I don't think KRS bigged up anybody on that album. But definitely, by all means necessary. By 88, he was bigging up all kind of random. Dana Dane is completely random. But yeah, I don't know if I'm counting that Silk Child. Hold on. Riding Dirty Face at Benny. Dead Press somewhere in between NWA and PE Sowings. That's right now the Neighborhood Kids. Dead Press. That's a good call, Dirty Face. Dead Prez was very conscious group. When did they drop? Like the late 90s though, right? So you talking PE. PE came like 88 is when the conscious albums dropped. By all means necessary was actually the first BDP. And then It Takes a Nation of Millions came out a month later, and that's really took it to the maximum. That's 88. So you're talking like 10 years before Dead Prez really picked up the mantle. You said the Neighborhood. These other groups I'm not familiar with. The Neighborhood Kids, I'm not familiar with them, but that's a good one. I like that. I'm gonna jump down a little bit because I'm a little behind. This thing, when I do a chat, it just jumps down anyway. So it just decides for me to move on. Blondie shouted out Grandmaster Flash and Rapture in 80. That was big. That's not a rap group, but she was describing her when Fab Five Freddy, who she shouted out, took her up to the Bronx to I think the Fever or one of these clubs, and she said she saw Flash and everybody was spinning and Flash was fast, and that's what inspired her to go and make the record Rapture after Fab Five Freddy took her to the club, I believe. Long story short, that's big. That's she's telling a story. I don't know if I'm gonna consider that a shout out, but she did shout out Flash. Yes, she did, which was super random. Cause after that, Tom Tom Club says somebody said sipping and dipping with Curtis Blow. Who needs to beat when your feet just go? Bohannon. That Curtis Blow shout out was random too. Tom Tom Club Genius of Love was ridiculous. Why would they say Curtis Blow and James Brown? And they shout out, did they say Bambaataa too in that record? Don't forget Paris from San Francisco. Yes, I'm a big put Paris in that mix. Paris and X-Clan were a little behind, but still, I'm gonna put Paris in the mix. Yeah, I like that. I think we did a show with Paris. Vincent Ross says, I loved it when Kara sampled Move the Crowd for High School Rock. I don't even remember that. I'd have to go back and listen to that. Riding Dirty Face, thank you. The Coup came out in '91, never hit the big times, but Boots Riley is making movies as well. Did you see I Love Boosters? LOL. It's out streaming. No. Um, I don't watch a lot of stuff. Like I try to skim through, but I always find myself going back to old stuff, man. I'm just not things just don't excite me, man. It's like I don't know, it's just like a regurgitation of something I've already seen, a weaker version of it. It's like Kool-Aid with more water. It's like it's Kool-Aid, but it's watered down, man. The last thing that was exciting to me was these Knicks. The Knicks winning the championship was incredibly exciting. And I was, like I said, I was excited to go see Disclosure because I thought this is, that's the big talk right now. It's so relevant. And I believe also that the government uses movies to get the people prepared for what's coming next. So the CIA talks to these directors. They said Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Spielberg got that information from the government itself. Like that's based on a real government classified information. But anyway, I was excited to see that, and it really did me dirty, man. Um, let's see. YZ. I mean, there were people with conscious stuff, like I said, but I wouldn't call it gigantic. Poor Righteous Teachers was conscious. Yes, they were. Yep, still are. But even them, they came out in '90. Rock This Funky Joint. 1990 is right around, like I said, all of these groups are right around the same time. Um, I don't see them as picking up the mantle from Chuck. I mean, all these people are inspired by the conscious movement that started really with the message, but it really picked up steam in '88. But there was no one person to me like that. It's like, okay, this is now the guy. PE, and now it's this guy. I never felt that. Corey Fuster, Arrested Development, picked up P left up. They were huge but faded quickly. Arrested Development, 1991, still around the same time, but a little. I like it. I like Arrested Development. They were very conscious, not only in their songs, but their garb and the video messages they were putting out. I really loved Mr. Wendell. Um, the message behind it. I have a soft spot for being homeless. Um, I loved Mr. Wendell, and Everyday People was a monster record. Um, did we ever do a show with Arrested Development? Not in my time. I met the girl from Arrested Development, the one that's the ad-lib girl who says, "My own trouble zone." I never met any of the rest of them. Love Dionne Farris, though. Love to meet her. Let me move on. Poor Righteous Teachers was holding the conscious rap down for a long while too, even when Wise Intelligent went solo. Yeah, they were. It just, the whole movement seemed to take a gradual fade as the gangster, because KRS was still talking conscious music in the '90s, but it was a little, the balance changed a little bit, because then it went from gangster rap, I hate that term, but gangster rap, and then Puff came with the Versace era. And we're still in it. Really. I mean, down south has their version of Flossie, but after '92, it really changed a lot. Um, let's see. You're right, Justice. Fat Five Freddy told me everybody's fly. DJ spinning. I said, my, Flash is fast, Flash is cool. Yeah, she's talking about what she saw. Um, it's funny. Two early punk people. I always say, talking. I big up New York all the time. In 1977, three movements, musical movements, were coming out of New York City at the same time in the hoods. Not in the hoods. Well, hip hop was in the hood in the Bronx, and punk rock was taking off in the Lower East Side, that CBGB's crowd, and disco in the gay community was taking off all around the same time. 76, 77. Incredible. Like these three music forms that exploded around the world, all was happening at the same time in New York. But two of the punk rock people saw hip hop and were so blown away that they had to make their own version, one being Blondie, Deborah Harry, and the other being Malcolm McLaren. He said he went to a jam. I forgot who took him. He went to a jam and saw hip hop and couldn't believe it. And he says, I got to get me some DJs. And he went and found the world famous Supreme team and made um, Buffalo Girls, Gals, which is his version of hip hop. Um, but both of them come from a punk rock background and was so blown away by early hip hop, they had to do it. So um, that's crazy. Have we had a musical genre since hip hop that really took over the world like that? Dance hall was coming on around 81, 82. Dance hall reggae, not as big as hip hop, but very influential too. But have we seen anything like hip hop since hip hop? I don't know. I see a lot of people on here bigging up the coup. Rosmel said, by the time 88 rolled around, shouting out other crews was the thing to do. Just listen to I Gets the Paper and Strictly Business. EPMD shouted out a lot of people. But even then, I would say BDP was before that. I'm bigging up BDP right now. KP, who made arrest the president? Wasn't that tragedy? The intelligent hoodlum? Rod and Dirty said, watch it, Kenny. What did I say? Kenny LaMelo did his threes well at 38% clip. Yeah, that's a very good shooter. But when it comes to shooting deuces, he's the pits. I remember him getting a lot of assists. I remember he has a weird form too. It's like a knuckleball almost. R.I.P. DJ Pan from the Coop. Yep. Um, watered down Kool-Aid. Yeah, Lindell. That's how I could only think of it. Like Kool-Aid, and then somebody adds water to it, and you think it's the same Kool-Aid until you drink it, and it's like, this is not really it. It's Kool-Aid, but it's not really it. Um, let's see. Uh, the movie Contact was a great movie, somewhat realistic. Yeah. I thought Disclosure would be like Contact was actually like this what Disclosure should have been. Yeah, absolutely. This Contact was dope. Yep, good call. Riding Dirty Face says, I put a spell on me. Good doc on Screaming Jay Hawkins. I just found that 45 last summer. Has Rudy Patrudi and other New York City heads in it. Good flick. Dude was first shock rocker. I didn't know anything about Screaming Jay Hawkins, but I know DJ Premier chopped that record up real nice for Biggie. Like I said, I found that 45 for $1. It's one of them good digs, man. How far behind am I? Not too bad. All right, let me move on. Uh, I remember seeing Close Encounters with Third Kind as a kid multiple times and still never understood the ending. I didn't see that till it came out on VHS, but it was a gigantic movie. Immortal Technique also, yeah, big up Immortal Technique. He's more underground. He's the top of the underground. But yeah, Immortal Technique has to be in that mix. Absolutely. Yes, 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 yes. Latrice Washington, what up? Uh, let's see. Rosmel says speech kicked Dion out of the group. Yeah, I think I saw that. And she was dating one of the members of the group, right? One of the original members. I think there's like two original members of the group. I think she was dating one of them. That never works. Once you start dating somebody in the group, that group is about to be over. And but she left the group and had a huge success. She had that record, I Know What You're Doing, which is big. And then Penny with a Hole in It is just one of my favorite records ever. And then she just kind of got disenchanted with the music business. I think they shelved her album. I was watching something on her. I think they shelved her album and she just was like, I'm out. Would love to meet her though. Uh, After the Griff debacle with PE, it seems like the industry shut down conscious rap and switched to gangster rap. I think that's part of it. I always see that conspiracy, which I don't agree with, that the government, purposely pushed gangster rap on the black culture to influence black kids to go to jail because they also were investing in prisons themselves and they need the prisons to fill up. So the same people that own the record companies own the prisons. So make the music, influence the kids to go to the prisons, which makes us money twice. I mean, and I've seen Ice Cube agree with that, and he is a father of gangster rap. So I would never dispute the great Ice Cube's opinion. So if he said it, I'm going to give some credence to that. But I always felt like it was just math. And I said this before on this channel. You look at 88, 89, 90, those 2 years, the peak of conscious rap. In order to go gold as a conscious rapper, you had to be among the best to ever do it. To be in that conscious realm, you had to be Public Enemy, they went double platinum. You had to be KRS-One. You had to be like the God Rakim, Tribe, Brand Nubian, on that level of skill to be a dope conscious rapper to make money. And you're talking about a gold record, 500,000 copies. Gangsta rap did quadruple those numbers with no radio play and with MCs that you have to say weren't as skilled as these other guys that I mentioned. Their wordplay. You could take an average gangster rapper with an average flow who sounds exactly like somebody else and put that out, and that would sell more than KRS or Rakim. So record companies are like, why are we trying to find another Rakim, which is impossible, when we can just go grab somebody who's not even gangster, just kind of put some shades on them, a little khaki suit on them, and tell them say this, and it'll sell quadruple. I'm over here with the money. Record companies don't care what you say. They only care, first of all, they don't even understand the culture. All they care about is the bottom line. You could diss the record company. They don't care. Does it sell? I think once gangster rap started selling ridiculous units, I mean, NWA was great too. They had great MCs. They were going double platinum and stuff. But I'm not going to name any names, but there were some other gangster groups that, to me, were mediocre lyrically at best, that were going platinum in 90, 91, 92. And I think that's what made the shift. Not so much a conspiracy theory, but just math. But that's just my opinion from where I sat watching it, because I know how record companies get down. When conscious music was the thing, they were pushing conscious music. Like when that 88, 89, 90, if you was talking pro-black and you had on your medallions and your beads and stuff, they had no problems with that because that's what was the flow until they found something bigger. And then the gangster stuff was cool until the Chronic came out and they figured out that you could make gangster but with R&B sounding tracks, and it'll even go beyond quadruple platinum. What? And then Puff came with the Versace era, and then they was like, okay, this is the formula right here. And then they were completely gone. They just chased the money. But that's just my opinion. Griff had a lot to do with, he almost got shut down completely. Chuck had to distance himself from Griff in order for Public Enemy to stay out and even on Def Jam. But then Griff went and got a major record deal by himself. Remember Professor Griff? What was his name? Was Griff and the Disciples or something Disciples? He still got a record deal after all of that controversy. Somebody was like, this dude has a lot of controversy and a name. We're still going to put him out. We don't care. That's just my opinion, y'all. I would debate anybody with that, except for Ice Cube. And the only reason why I'm giving that industrial jail complex theory any weight is because Ice Cube agrees with it. MMA, thank you so much for your contribution to the channel. Salute to Kenny and DJ KP Chad. Salute to a good friend, mixed martial actress and musician Erica Gimbel, famed Criminal Minds ER, whose birthday was June 25th. Erica is 61. Shout out Erica Gimbel. That's a good friend of yours, MMA. She's a mixed martial actress and musician, so she's very talented. Big up Erica, 61. Let's go. I'm all for getting older, y'all. Y'all know how much I love being alive. Speech from Arrested Development went out of his way in an interview to say Deion Ferris is not a member of Arrested Development, and they got into some big legal battle. Yeah, I think she was not an original member. She was hired to sing, but her flavor on those songs was dope. I think had she stayed in the group, I can see where hip hop was headed. The hip hop with the singing and the choruses and stuff, they were very early on that. Where hip hop was headed, she would have been really dope. And considering what she did on her own, it's a shame things don't work. Uh, Speech is a Drake fan. I'm just shocked. I don't know why. My joint about the rest of Development was Revolution with the Malcolm X soundtrack. Yeah, I remember that too. Revolution. Yep. Yep. Divine Existence KP. Can't forget about Goody Mob. Shout out to Goody Mob. Soul Food and Still Standing covered a lot of conscious, positive topics a few years after the rest of Development arrived. Then Dead Press came. Yeah, I would say there's a few groups who had a conscious songs in their repertoire, but they weren't heavy in that direction. Goody Mob, though, I'll give them an honorable mention. Yeah, they had some things to say. Yes, yeah, that's a good call. I'm gonna give it that. Um, Thank you, Rod Justice says filmmaker and journalist Michael Holman took Malcolm McLaren to his first hip hop show in '81. Thank you. I didn't know who took him, but somebody took him and blew his head off. Jason Wall says even Dee Dee Ramone from Obviously the Ramones made a rap album. I didn't know that. Um, you know what? Derek Mallory, The Clash, The Magnificent Seven was dope. That record was banging. That record was played on black radio a lot. Um, they're technically rapping on that song. Yes. Get your car out of that, da 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 da. Yeah. Stevie was rapping in '82. And of course, my girl, always got to big her up. Vanilla Child, Tina Marie, Square Biz. She went for hers in Square Biz. I'm going to argue that her rhymes in Square Biz are as good or better than a lot of these girls out right now. Go back and listen to Tina Marie spit on the end of Square Biz. She was going for hers. KP, have you ever met Supercat? No. We did shows with Supercat, but no. Never officially met her. I'm a huge fan. No. Let's see. Oh, shoot. D Nizzy. KP, dope beat song BDP was shouting out. Yeah, Scott went OD at the end of that record. Thank you for that, D Nizzy. He did a whole shout out. He did half the damn record is Scott shouting people out. The question is, did he say any rappers though? He was just bigging up a lot of his friends. Flavius Walker and this person turns it out. Rocks the house. He's got shout out his son. Um, Please let me know. I'm gonna have to listen later. Did he shout out any rappers on that song? That would be big. Um, Riding Dirty Face says Randy Savage made Be a Man in 2003. That is so random. Riding Dirty Face. I don't even know. Randy Savage. That is so random. Oh, man. DC go-go music was influential in hip hop sampled in many tracks. Yeah, Marley. I'm not sure if Marley, the father of sampling, or Herbie Lovebug was first. They both were right there. I'm gonna say Marley was first. Yep. Mike Rock says K-pop has done what hip hop did. K-pop to me is like a combination of they're like Asian rappers slash pop artists. They're rapping. They're almost like Asians rapping over pop beats. Maybe K-pop. It didn't have the effect of what K-pop has done. What hip hop did, Mike. Well, I can't put K-pop in the same conversation with hip hop. Hip hop has been the dominant selling music for the since the mid '90s all the way up until a few years ago, a couple years back. It's like 30 years as the number one sound. Then you look at not just rap, but hip hop's other influences, the hip hop culture's other influence in other music, sampling and all of that, plus the amount of people that it brought together. Like K-pop, I don't see K-pop bringing a bunch of different cultures together. Like you go to a K-pop concert, I don't know if you see all the. I'm not very familiar with K-pop, so let me, from my observation, I don't know if K-pop had like many different people coming together like hip hop did. I don't know if I could co-sign that, Mike Rocks. Um, but I'm not an aficionado, so Mr. Boricua, what up? I ain't seen you in a minute. Thank you. I 100% agree. After the Chronic, gangster rap went from a gimmick to commercial. Now you can't go on a cruise ship. Yeah, yeah. The Chronic changed the game. I always say that, and people be raising their eyebrow. Rap music on the radio changed after that album. It was the Chronic and Doggy Style because it was Gin and Juice too. But the Chronic changed everything. And Puffy took the Chronic's, the formula they laid down, he took it one step further because he added more singing and more sampling of known beats. Once once Biggie did Big Papa, and then One More Chance, the game was never the same. K-pop is AI. I might go with that. Let me tell you something. I was watching something on AI just this morning. Yo, you literally cannot believe anything that you see on this screen, yo. AI has gotten so good. They were talking about how, and I'm not even talking about songs that they can make in 30 seconds that's good, but just visual. There are AI, what I want to call it, AI human. They're not humans, they're AI images that have millions of followers. They have AI images that are selling products that people don't even know it's AI. And it says it's AI in the bio, and people are still talking to it and following it and listening to it. They got AI women being the beauty standard with bodies and faces that's almost impossible for a regular human to have. You cannot believe anything that you see on the screen, y'all. let's say from this point on, don't even, but I could be AI. There's no way that I can prove to you. I don't know if I can prove to you right now that I am real and I'm talking to you real right now. I could easily be AI. Some of the stuff that I was watching is so lifelike. I can't even imagine what it's going to look like next year. And then you got to imagine all of the AI bots in the comment section. So you have a fake image, a fake story, a whole fake um, program going on, and then a bunch of fake comments in the comment section feeding this. You don't even know what to believe. I think there's going to be a backlash soon. I think AI is going to take it too far. And then people are going to want mistakes and imperfections is going to become the style. You don't know what you're watching. Even grainy stuff that looks like it's old, you can't believe anything. They got animal videos, animals doing things that you'd be like, this is incredible. It's not even real. Be very, very careful, y'all, what you read and listen to. Check its authenticity as much as you can, because we are already in it, but we're headed in a world of absolute virtual. You're not going to believe anything. If somebody's not standing in front of you, don't believe it. I'm saying right now that I'm not AI, but I could be. Ilroy the MC. Thank you. Says still number one is definitely the first multi-crew shout out. And was so dope to me. Also, yeah. Also love when Cool Keith shouted out Paul C, Public Enemy, and Jungle Brothers. Peace. I'm out of here. Yes, that was dope too. I think still number one was the first multi-crew shout. I believe that. He said Stetsasonic. He was shouting out mad crews. But I'm still taking it all the way back to The Bridge Is Over. Go listen to the clean version. I mean, I know this is a BD. I am a BDP member, so I try to big up BDP as much as I can, but I try to be objective. KRS was first in so many things, or at the beginnings of so many things, man. Let me scroll down a little. I'm not that far off. Hey, Boogie says, salute. I like most of Guy Ritchie movies. I like Guy Ritchie. I would love to get another Sherlock Holmes, man, with Robert Downey. I think Guy Ritchie did that, right? Love those movies. They're just like, we're done with that. I know Robert Downey is busy. But man, I wish he would do another Sherlock Holmes. Sister Soldier almost brought down Bill Clinton's presidential campaign. I can't remember that, but shout out to Sister Soldier. We are at war. That's the homie. People, KP, have you ever went bowling in your life? No. It's funny that you asked that. You must look at me and be like, that guy never bowled before. Why would you ask me that? I look like a guy who never bowled. I've never held a bowling ball in my life. I've been to a bowling alley before at a party. I chilled on the side. Never had bowling shoes on or anything like that. Patrick Wise says, KP, I think the Spurs should start Wemby as small forward on offense so he can roam on defense. He plays more like a small forward anyway until he gains weight and strength. This position is ideal for him. Yeah, only problem with that is he can't guard small forwards. He'll roam. You put a shooter out there, he's going to have easy pickings. And then if Wemby tries to guard him out the perimeter, he's just going to go right around him. I like your thinking. I would say Wemby at power forward. As a San Antonio Spur, you want him to roam. That's when he's most dangerous to me, when he's roaming. They tried to put him on Josh Hart so he could roam, and it worked for a while until Josh started making them threes. Josh hit enough threes to make them pay. They put Wemby on OG. Remember that? And OG was going right around him and banging it. Corey Fuss says, Kenny, that's such an insane, ridiculous theory. I don't care what Ice Cube says. There's no conspiracy. If Conscious sold well, then it would have stayed dominant. I'm not going to say it's ridiculous. I mean, conspiracy theories, that's what they are. They're a little off. They're there. And I'm a conspiracy theorist, but it has to have some meat to me. It's possible, but is it probable? That's what I always say. You know, there's something called Occam's razor theory that says, all things being considered, the simplest answer is usually the correct answer. So what is more probable? That gangster rap came out and did 3 times what conscious rap did and all the record companies went in that direction? Or there's a conspiracy theory to push gangster rap so that we would listen to, like, black people weren't going to jail before and during the conscious era, but to push gangster rap to send to it would influence. First of all, at that point, rap music wasn't as big as it became. I could even see if they said during the Puffy era, when artists were going 4 and 5 times platinum, I could see them say that. But back then, in 91, 92, gangsta rap was going platinum, double platinum. That's huge. Don't get it twisted. But is that enough to say, let's put all our money here because we foresee this sending kids to jail? I don't know. All things being considered, I just think that's not, I don't see it that way. But once again, Cube would know better than me. You gotta understand, Ice Cube, not only is he the father of gangster rap, one of the fathers, but he's in the know. Like, he has more information than us. I've been in the music industry professionally for 36 years. But I'm gonna say, not only was Ice Cube in it before me, but he was in it at a way higher level than me. Now, somebody like KRS, who's been in it longer than me and has that level of information, I would love to hear what his take is. Rosmel said flannel shirt. Yeah, put on a flannel shirt and some shades, like Boss. Exactly. Boss, to me, is the definition of what record companies were trying to do. And what's the movie with Ice Cube? CB4 is to me, CB4 is the definition of what was going on. All right, we're gonna do a Benny Doyle scroll down because I'm a little behind. Patrick White, shout out Lakim Shabazz. I love Lakim Shabazz. I'm gonna scroll down a little bit because I'm behind. Super behind. A Boogie says Tina Marie versus Foxy Brown on Square Biz Firm Biz. Go listen to Vanilla Child. I'm telling you, she was flowing on that. Mike Rocks is back. Welcome back, Mike Rocks. 1 2 1 2. Common held it down for a minute, KP. Yes, he did. But like I said, he was conscious, but he was a few things. He talked about girls. He talked about battling. He talked about how nice he was. He's conscious to an extent. Like I said, I put him in that tribe mode. Talib Kweli, like they're conscious, but they weren't all the way. Like PE was all the way there. And I don't know who was all the way there. Like that. Dead Prez to me was all the way. Mr. Bodikra says, On the gangster rap thing, every group tried to out gangster each other, tried to out gangster each other. Ice Cube was a studio gangster. Well, I don't know Ice Cube. I don't know his past. People have said different things, but I'm not going to comment because I don't know him. I don't know anybody from NWA. Matter of fact, I don't even know that many West Coast rappers like that. I mean LA rappers, except for Ice T is BDP affiliate practically since '86. He was down with Scott and all of them, and Ice T is the real deal. Um, but like I said, I don't know who's real and who's not. I'm not from LA, so I don't want to say who's you know disrespect, but yeah, they tried to out gangster each other. After a while, it got ridiculous, but also it wasn't, even if you were trying to out gangster, it wasn't dope. Like NWA was very good at gangster rap. And then you had some watered down groups that was still selling 1 million records. Groups going platinum in like 3 states. That's how hot gangster rap was. Uh, and then Dre came with the Chronic, which I consider NWA probably the best gangster rap album ever. You could argue whether it's that better than Straight Outta Compton. You could argue that, but one of those two. And then Big, Big and them, Puffy and them came with. Big was I'm gangster, but I'm a player. See, that was a different level. That was the real moneymaker. Because it went from gangster rap to the Chronic was I'm gangster, but I'm still in the streets of LA. But Dre found some music that the radio could understand. So Snoop was smooth. They were still talking, Snoop and I were still talking some gangster, straight street stuff, but Snoop was smooth and the music was smooth and radio loved it. Puffy saw that and said, well, I'm gonna give y'all Harlem's version of gangster, which is we bust our shots, but we dress like this and we're players as well. And that was the real formula that really sold. The Biggie formula, the bad boy formula. Um, I would love to talk to Ice Cube about that though. Jack Swagger said K-pop did what hip hop did. Name me 5 K-pop artists. I'll wait. But Jack Swagger, you are not a K-pop fan. Maybe if you was 18 years old, you might name 5 K-pop artists. Um, I don't know. Jason Wilson, hip hop outsold country. Hip hop outsold everything. Um, Overall, it was the highest, the number one selling genre for decades. And then now it's not. Now country is the biggest thing. PBB says K-pop is just Asians stealing American music. I might have to concur with that. I'd have to concur, man. Jack Swagger said Chronic and Doggy Style. Yeah, it was a combination of the two. It was the Chronic and Gin and Juice. Gin and Juice really, Gin and Juice, radio loved Gin and Juice. That was a big, gigantic record, man. Um, Rosmel says AI is very dangerous, very dangerous. When you can no longer distinguish between reality and virtuality, it's over. And we're there, man. We are there. We don't even realize we're there. Jack Swagger says, you are not AI. Thank you, Jack Swagger. We have talked before outside of this. Um, but if I was AI, how can I could say anything I want to say. AI could drink water like this. AI got facial expressions. AI answers questions. Yo, these things are incredible, man. They have millions of people following these people. It's crazy. We scroll down a little more because I'm behind. So I'm gonna jump like 30 comments, 40 comments. So if you left a comment in the past 15 minutes, please comment again because did DJ KP say Ice Cube was the father of gangster rap? Yes, I did. What about Schoolie D or Just Ice or Cool G Rap? They were early, but gangster rap as we know it really took off nationwide with NWA. Now, NWA got their inspiration. They said out their mouths. Ice-T said this as well. He's a father too. Schoolie D PSK, a game-changing record. And Dr. Dre said, we listened to Criminal Minded over and over, and we went and made Straight Outta Compton. That's what he said out his mouth. Him and Ren. But I would not consider Criminal Minded the first gangster rap album. Some people do, but when NWA did Straight Outta Compton, that's when it exploded. And Ice Cube is the main driving force behind that album. That's why I call him a father. I didn't say the father, I said a father. And if I did say the father, I meant a father, because Ice-T was, 6 in the morning, police at my doors up there. But he said all he was doing PSK over. He said that is PSK and West Coast style. See, I don't always go with what was the first. I go with what was set the trend. Sometimes you could be first at something and people heard it or didn't, and it just came and went. So, but sometimes was one person's interpretation of something is the one that catches on, and then the trend starts. So yes, I consider Ice Cube an absolute father of gangster rap, a father. Patrick Wise says Puff tried to bring the party back in rap, button-down shirts, jeans, and Timbs. He didn't try to, he did it. That his whole style, it was Harlem. He took the sound of Harlem. It started with the mixtapes, those Ron G tapes, those Kid Capri tapes. He took that sound to Uptown, Bad Boy, Uptown, before Bad Boy. He took that sound to Uptown and made Jodeci, Mary J. Blige. Then he took it a step further after the Chronic and made the Biggie album, but it wasn't even the Biggie album. Because even on Juicy, Juicy had the beat the very commercial beat. And Juicy had the formula almost because it had the singing and it had the beat, but Big was on there. Really, he wasn't smooth Big yet. He was still look up in the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane. He was that Biggie octave. Party and bullshit Biggie. It was Big Papa and then One More Chance. That's when everything changed. 95. 95, everything changed, man. And it was Puff and Bad Boy. I'm not that far behind right now. Aaron said Bad Boy played towards chicks. That is what sold. Chicks didn't really dig hip hop at first. That's partially true. Chicks did dig hip hop, but they liked certain things. They weren't 100% in. Like the guys were all in. The girls were kind of in. Because if you went to hip hop shows back then, there was tons of girls. Tons. Whole arenas full of girls. Loved LL. They loved NWA, all that gangster stuff. They was at shows. They was at BDP. We had tons of girls at our shows, but they loved R&B. Girls like hip hop, love R&B. And Puffy said, "Aha! If I can combine the two." And Puffy also says, girls want to sing along. And when you make these rhyme styles that girls can't sing along to, it keeps your sales at a ceiling. And that is true. Puffy said, I want you to rap a certain way where girls could sing along. I'm gonna make it so that girls like R&B, I'm gonna push towards that. And that's what really took it over the top. And I call it the gift and the curse. I think Puffy is the gift and the curse. Economically, he took rap music to heights that it had never seen before and made money. He raised the bar so much for how much money you could make that it took everybody's pay up. But it also watered down the hip hop. And artistically, it hurt. It hurt us in 94, 95. Helped our pockets, hurt the art. That's why I call him the gift and the curse. I could go more into depth how I feel about that, but long story short, that's what I think. Um, but yeah, you are correct, Aaron. He played towards the chicks. Chicks didn't really dig hip hop at first. Now they did dig it, not like they digged R&B. Do y'all still have the Criminal Minded cover guns? First of all, I wasn't on the cover of Criminal Minded. Um, Chris always says that let me say this for YouTube. That 9 that's on the cover was his 9. Chris says that was his 9 that he had on the cover. The grenade and other stuff was other people's brought stuff in, but I don't know. I doubt Chris still has that. I wasn't there, so I can't comment. Um, VH said people forget NWS Straight Outta Compton is a fun record with dope 88, 89 styles. Fun? I wouldn't I wouldn't get fun from that. I mean, everyone hears hip hop differently. The only fun record to me that on there is Express Yourself. It's fun. Everything else on there is, at that time, was scary. Uh-oh, look who's in the building. Anyway, what up? Um, hey, Boogie said the beat to Itches Ain't Ish off the Chronic was fire, beyond fire. I think that's one of the dopest beats on that whole album. I think that's one of the dopest records on that whole album. I used to listen to that record over and over and over. Shout out to Jewel on the end. Rest in peace. That record was dope. Somebody should take that beat right now and rock on it. Bandor says there's always one mispronunciation in an AI video. You are correct. Because I'll be watching some of these like documentary breakdowns, and they'll be talking about a group or time like they know, like they did the research, and then they'll pronounce a name wrong or break it up into two pieces when it's not supposed to be. And then you'll be like, how could you get this wrong? It's almost like you never heard the name before. You are correct about that, Benny Doyle. It's the way the AI is reading the text. Well, they first of all, they invent the text. And then the way it's reading it, sometimes things get a little broken up. That is true, because I noticed that earlier this week. But you know they're gonna fix that, right? And if that's the only way we can tell, is waiting for them to waiting for them to make a mistake with a pronunciation, we're in big trouble. Ice-T, I would give it to before Cube as the father of gangster rap. I'm saying NWA, not just Cube. Ice-T made 6 in the morning, police at my door in 86, right? Did gangster rap take off then? Question. Just Ice had yes, but you are the hip hop gangster. All of that. Did it take off? Was it nationwide? I would say not really. Even Colors was later on. NWA had already dropped by that point. If you want to say Colors, then okay. I am a nightmare walking, psychopath talking. What he said. Colors, okay. But I still say gangster rap did not take off until NWA sold 2 million copies with no radio play. The whole industry said, what the hell is this? And then floods of gangster artists came out. It is 9:32, y'all. Y'all know what that means? That means we are in overtime. Uh, Anything after 9:30, for those that's new to the channel, is considered OT. So real quick, this is the Kenny Parker Show. If you don't have the book, my brother's name is Kenny. The link is in the description below. We do this every Tuesday and Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you guys so much for being here on a summer Friday. Is this our first summer Friday? Maybe the second. And big up to the Rewind crew who's gonna check this out later on. We got a chat. I want to make sure I always get to the chats before. Silk Child says, before Pac was Paris, he was definitely conscious, and you had conscious daughters, RIP special one. Yeah, you definitely had groups that were talking it. I would consider them regional though. Paris and Conscious Daughters, I would consider regional. Pac was gigantic, beyond gigantic. CMC says, KP, don't forget the Roots gave pushback to Puff with what they do, and De La followed them with stakes is high. Yeah, there was pushback. 96, 97, there was pushback, but the train had already left the station. Here's what happened in 95, 96, 95. When One More Chance came out, this is one of those moments, the remix. And it came out #1 in the country. I remember Michael Jackson dropped a song and Biggie dropped a song, and One More Chance sold more than Michael Jackson. And the whole industry heard the formula. It was like, okay, you get a smooth beat and you put some singing in it. You could say whatever you want. As long as the singing and the beat is smooth, it changed everything. Every artist had a decision to make at that point. Do you stay in the traditional hip hop style that you were in 1994? Or do you change your image and sound to get with this new sound that the radio is coming with and that record companies are pushing? Because record companies decided we're not pushing anything that doesn't sound like Bad Boy now. Everybody had a decision to make. Many artists chose to switch up and go mafioso Versace. Most classic example is the artist that we love on this channel, Nas. 1994, we had Nasty Nas, the chip tooth Nasty Nas with the green fatigue jacket on and in the Queensbridge Projects. The following album, we had If I Rule the World. We had Nas with singing in the hook. We had Nas with the Versace shirt on. It was written that whole, what's the record? Street Dreams Are Made of These. Remember that video? He was in Mafia. He had one of the guys from Goodfellas in the video. His whole image was different. Nas did a complete, almost like a different artist from the first album to the second album. And I think a few people did that, including Big. Big figured out the Juicy sales and the Party and Bullshit sales, and then he figured out the Big Papa and One More Chance sales, and it was over. Look at Wu-Tang. Wu-Tang was the grimiest of the grimy in 93, 94. And then all of a sudden, I saw Only Built for Cuban Links. They was real clean in that. I love the Purple Tape. We all loved it. It's one of the greatest albums ever. I think it's the second best Wu-Tang album. But look at the imagery in 95, 96, 95. Method Man had You All I Need. He kept it gangster, but they remixed the song. If y'all recall, You All I Need to Get By, the original that's on the album was nothing like that. And they said Method Man didn't even want to do that remix. He wanted to come out with the original one, with the hook being You're All That I Need, I'll Be There For You. If you keep it real with me, I keep it real with you. That was the hook. They remixed that whole song, put Mary in the hook, singing You All I Need to Get By, platinum. Do y'all remember the original How High, Red and Meth? Do you remember how the original one sounded, which is my favorite? Grimy. They remixed it, put Fly, Robin Fly, up to the sky, changed the beat, made a little more musical, platinum. Then you have some other groups who said, we keeping it real. We keeping it hardcore. We keeping our Timbs on and our hoodies. And they got pretty much phased out. And even BDP, for those who saw my breakdown of I Got Next, I know y'all all saw I Got Next, Epic Fail. I talk about how after 95, we did MCs Act Like They Don't Know, which was a big record for KRS, but it was at a level. It was a big rap record. And the record company Jive said, we need a big radio record. They challenged Chris, like, you can't continue at this pace of making MCs act like they don't know. They wanted more. They wanted more than Sound of the Police, Black Cop, MCs act like they don't know. They were like, this is not good enough for what's going on right now. And the name of that album, for those that didn't see the video, please go see the whole video because I break this all down. But the name of that album was called originally Just to Prove a Point. And Chris said, I'm going to make a record like they want just to prove a point that I can do that if I wanted to. And so out of all of that became Step Into a World, which had the formula, had a dope beat that was recognizable. Chris's rhymes were pretty easy to sing along to, dope rhymes, but it wasn't great. KRS could really go, intricate. Rhymes were smooth, and the chorus was everything. That became the biggest single in KRS-One's career, and it propelled that album, I Got Next, to almost platinum status, gold in Canada, huge in Europe. That was his biggest single. After 11 years of making records, he had his biggest record in 97. The record was made in 96. And even like I said, even KRS-One was forced to make a decision. Now, what he did was he didn't change his image in the video. The imagery wise, it was still hip hop, breakdancing, graffiti, all that. But the song was so powerful that it was huge. The problem Chris had with Jive was that after that song, Chris said, okay, I proved my point. I'm going back to making what I feel is hip hop. And Jive was like, no, once they got a taste of Step Into a World, it was like, we need more of this. And Chris is like, no, I'm making MCs act like they don't know. And that's where the conflict came. That's how I remember it. Chris could probably speak better, but that's where the conflict came. Once they started hearing the music he was making for the following album, they was like, there's no Step Into a World on here. And Chris is like, it's not where I'm going. And they had problems. I say all this to say, yeah, there was pushback, but even the Roots, what they do is the formula, dissing the formula. Got singing in it, beat was smooth. It was everything that radio wanted, but they were dissing the formula in it, which was dope. Um, I could just go on and on about how groups changed their whole look. Even Ice Cube, the West Coast groups were different. Um, Tupac had How Do You Want It with Jodeci singing in it. Everybody went in that direction just about. And if you didn't, you was done. You were done. And I saw it happen in real time. Um, so I say all that to say, I'm not forgetting, but this is what happened. So take that into account. Ilroy says, what do you think is the most listened to song of all time? I think mine is Let the Rhythm Hit 'Em. My most listened to song of all time? All right, we're gonna separate Rapper's Delight out of that equation. When I was a kid, we listened to that record hundreds of times a day, damn near. I'm gonna take BDP out of the equation. Have to be a tribe album. It would have to be either these albums. It had to be either Low End Theory or The Chronic that I listened to the most in my life. All right, since I've been talking, we've had 100 comments. So, and we're in overtime, y'all. So I'm just gonna scroll to the bottom. There's no way I can see all of this. Parsons says boot camp clip kept it real. They did, and they faded. You're right. Step Into a World Puffy remix. I think I've broken down how that whole remix came about. That was a very big remix for BDP at the time. I never liked that remix, but Corey versus Kenny, I can't agree with what you're saying about the Raekwon album. Ain't no pop or puffy radio friendly. Even Ice Cream was grimy as anti-puffy, and that's why we loved it. No, I'm not saying they was puffy radio friendly, although go back and listen to Rainy Days remix. Um, Only Built for Cuban Links was right at the border, 95. It was right at the border. But look at what they were wearing on the cover. That album was still grimy, and I love that album. But I see where Ray and Ghost was going from that point on. Look at from that point on their music. Nobody loves the purple tape more than me. And even in that, Ice Cream was great. That's the song that really took that album to the stratosphere. And even that had Method Man's hook was so dope. So dope. Method Man's, I always say this in my opinion, Method Man's hooks is the difference between Wu-Tang being boot camp click and being million selling artists in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I believe that hooks are everything in a record. Everything. And some of you guys may disagree, but I think if you look at the biggest records ever, it's because they had hooks. And if you take those hooks out of those records, they would not be the same thing. Now, somebody's going to come on here, the all police are going to be like, well, this record was big and it didn't have a hook. Well, let's see. You show me. Show me a record. When I mean big, I mean nationwide smash. It didn't have a hook. There's a couple here and there, but for the most part, you got to have a hook. And okay, I'll say Raekwon and them, they didn't go the puffy radio friendly way. They were not there. Wu-Tang will never be there. Because even like I said, you All I Needed with Method Man, they used the formula on that song, but that record, that video was grimy. That was Method Man was super grimy on that. Um, but I want to see more of you guys' comments, but I think in real time, that's what happened. DJ Joey Joe says, Eric Sermon said he remixed How High because it was just Red and Meth spitting rhymes, but not doing a radio song. The label wanted to promote it, so he gave it a friendlier commercial vibe. Yes. And it won. Ross Mel said, I don't blame Jive. Um, they wanted more of that. They wanted more of that. KRS hadn't gone gold in like 5 years, no, more than that. The last gold KRS project was Edutainment. That was 1990. We were working on I Got Next in 96. So it had been 6 years of not getting to that level of success again. But in them 6 years, he had dope records out. Like I said, I think they fumbled Return of the Boom Bap album. Jive fumbled that. But even MCs Act Like They Don't Know, even just now when we was on tour in Europe, that was one of the biggest songs that got the biggest reactions out of the whole night. That was a dope song. And that is also what I'm saying about a hook. I think if that song, MCs Act Like They Don't Know, same beat, same rhymes, had a catchy hook, instead of MCs Act Like They Don't Know, instead of that, if it had a catchy hook, that record would have went. But because it just had a scratching hook, it stayed at a level. There's levels. It was big in the hip hop world, but there's levels. And radio needs a hook. Now, some people be like, I don't care about being on the radio. We just keeping it real. That's cool. But when you have a record contract, you won't be on your label long if you don't have some commercial success. And the money that you want to get from the label, they're not going to give it to you unless they feel they're going to get a return on their investment. I think My Philosophy could have been a bigger record. What was the hook? And for now, just Seckle. Then it goes, it's just music playing. Then Chris comes back in and rhymes. If a hook like 1, 2, 3, the crew is called BDP. If that hook, something like that, was on My Philosophy, that would have been that song would have been double. Or even Down With Us, something, Down With Us. Even if he had said that in My Philosophy, I think that song would have been even bigger. My opinion. I mean, I can battle this all day. We could talk about this. Art versus commercialism. Yeah, Sydney Rhodes. But this, you got to understand that, um, like I said, the pressure that you're under behind the scenes, even when there's artists that come grimy, like, yo, we coming with the real hip hop, and you try to shop a deal, and they be like, yo, we're not signing this. You have to change your style in order to get a record deal back in the day. Isaiah says, KP, have you ever heard of a song called The New Rap Language by the Treacherous Three and the Spoonie G? Are you kidding me right now? uh Fuji's Killing Me Softly, classic example. Um, let's see. I just want to see if you guys get any more comments. Um, Jason Wall says, as Rosmel said, I can see why Josh said that. KRS can do 10 songs the way he wants. Why not do one song the way Jive wants? That is the, what's the word I'm looking for? I want to use enigma. That is the, I'm going to use the word, I'm going to use enigma, but that's not really the word I want, but I'm going to use that word. That is the enigma of KRS-One. He doesn't do what you want him to do. He does what he feels he says what he wants to say at a given time. And it just so happens that he has never tried to make a commercial record, ever. It just so happens that what he was saying for most of the, in the 80s into the 90s, what he was saying happened to be what people wanted to hear, and it was dope. You know how hard it is for a conscious rapper to sell 500,000 records, million records? Chris came out with You Must Learn as a single, and it still did numbers. That's incredibly difficult. It's a testament to his talent and his vocals and the times. But he's just not the type of artist that's gonna say, like, there's times when you be like, Chris is he people say he's too preachy. He's preaching too much. Why don't he just do this? He's not gonna do that. And that's what makes great artists, but that's also what hurts great artists. Same with like a Prince. I'm not comparing saying KRS as Prince, but I'm saying these great artists, they do what they want to do. And Miles Davis, these kind of guys, they're just like, here, this is what I got. Take it or leave it. And I think that helped Chris be original, but I also think it hurt him after Step Into a World. Because if it was like he couldn't do bigger than Sound of the Police, I think that record should have been bigger. But say Sound of the Police and Out of Here and MC's Out Like They Don't Know. If that was his ceiling at that point, then you would say, okay, this is his biggest KRS. This is what he got. This is all he got. But once you know he can do this, then it becomes a problem. And it was a problem. That's how I saw. I wasn't on the outside looking in, but I was sort of on the outside because I was never in any negotiations. I was never in those rooms when they were having these conversations. I just heard bits and pieces of the story after the fact. But that to me was the major reason why KRS and Jive, Chris eventually left Jive, because they definitely had a conflict of interest as far as what the music should sound like. And when Chris says, I am hip hop, that's just not a saying that he came up with in 92 or whatever. He is really the embodiment of hip hop. Like he feels like I am hip hop and I will protect the integrity of this culture no matter what. And you're not going to tell me what to do. Now, yeah, why couldn't he just make another one? Why didn't he make another Love's Gonna Get You? That was a big record. That was probably his second biggest radio song. No. After the Criminal Minded album, everybody was like, this is the craziest shit ever. He said, okay, I'm making a conscious album. I'm going completely another direction. That's just who he is. We're in overtime, y'all. I want to get some more of these comments. All that I got is you. Classic example. And everybody was going to Mary. Mary was the go-to. Gangstar stayed true to the game. No mass appeal striving. No, go listen to the albums after '94. What was the one with they did a song with with KC and JoJo, and they did a single with Total, and that pushed their first gold albums. Out of all of those Gangstar albums that we all love to death, the two ones that went gold are the ones that had the KC and JoJo singing on it, and Total. They decided Premier was still Premier. He had Guru was still Guru. Put that singing in there. Mobb Deep kept it realer than real. Mobb Deep was able to sell big records. Yes. Whatever Mobb Deep was doing, they sold big records. So you got to think after 95, because 95 was right at the border. So after 95, they still was Mobb Deep, and they sold a lot of records. Let's see. Brooklyn Geek says KP 100 or Method Man hooks. Thank you. I know a lot of people wouldn't agree with that, but if you really go back and look at it, Meth really changed the trajectory of that group. Red and Meth Rockwaller was and is biggest rap song with no hook. There's a hook on the end, short off, shotgun, hand on the pump. That hook is on the end, and that record is only 2 minutes. I don't even know how they even got away with that being a single. That's a 2 minute and change record with a hook on the end. RZA even said that Meth was the master of the hooks. He was. Brooklyn Geek, the engineer who taught me to make beats, said rap hit songs are two things: the drums and the hook. The rhymes obviously now don't even matter. They matter. Well, now rhymes don't matter. But we're talking about in history. They matter. It's just not. It's like cherry on top when you have dope bars too. That's what make records really, really incredible. When the bars are dope and the beat is dope and the hook is dope. But I would say rhymes, the verses are third in the hierarchy of what you need to have a hit. Ghostface with Carl Thomas never be the same. Thank you, Divine Existence. Ray and Ghost are rocking the designer shirts and introducing a more refined mafioso style in the Heaven and Hell music video in '94. The Wu visual image started to change there. That is my argument. No disrespect to Ray and Ghost. I'm talking about the imagery and the sound had to change, or you was not getting any radio play, which means you were done. Return of the Boom Bap didn't go gold? No. Sex and Violence, Return of the Boom Bap, and the KRS-One self-titled album all sold about the same amount, like 300 at the time. Now, it might have went gold. I don't think it's certified yet, but over 30 years it might have went over the hump. But at the time, no. And that was a big problem. After Edutainment went gold, and then Sex and Violence sold half of that. That's what started a big chain reaction of KRS going solo and getting more producers and a lot of things. And then he did Return of Boom Bap, which had enough dope records on it to really do business, but it didn't do what I think it should have done. I put that on Jive's. I put that right at Jive's feet. And MC Zach, they don't know. Imagine that girl singer, I forgot her name, jumped on that same beat and had a radio record with that same beat all over the country. I forgot her name. So the beat was smooth enough that radio will accept the beat. I thought the rhymes were simple, not simple, but simple, you know what I mean, by simple enough that people could sing along. Dope. It was the MC Zach that they don't know. Zick, 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 MC Zach. It was that part that held that record from being bigger, in my opinion. Parson says the sax was the hook on My Philosophy. Yes, it was. And I think had there been a hook, hooks weren't the same back then as it became, but I just felt like there were other hooks that could have. Even if he said, what's the record on? I'm thinking records on the album. Cocaine business controls America. Ganja business controls America. Even if that hook, that melody hook, you could have thrown on My Philosophy, it would have been more. To me. We're in super, it's 10 o'clock. We're in double OT. I'm going to jump off in a second, y'all. I'm just really, this is a topic that is very dear to me, and I have a lot of opinions on it. I just wanted to see what you guys think of my opinion. ICU Breath says, that's the mystique of KRS-One, the courage of his convictions. Yes. Yes. He has the courage to say, I'm keeping it real. And but he pays the consequences too. Artists sticking to the principles. Yeah. Chris said, I would rather be off of your label than keep making the same record over. LTKK says, the curse of the hit. Yeah, the same thing happened to Biz. Biz was doing very well. He had a gold album with the Vapors and all that. Dope, we love Biz. But once he made Just a Friend, platinum single. This is platinum in '89, y'all. One of the biggest records ever. And platinum gold. I think the album was gold, the single was platinum. And Spring Again was a gold single too. Once he got a taste of that, I believe every song after that was Biz singing. And I believe he chased the Just a Friend moment longer than he probably should have, in my opinion. But you guys got to understand, once you taste that big hit record, it does something. It changes you. If you give a record company an inch, they take a yard. Yeah, because it's business. It's all business. You Must Learn a Remix was a great decision. I agree. I wonder what made them do that. This is right before I joined the group, so I wasn't privy to that. It might blow up, but it won't go pop, De La Soul. But even look at De La Soul. Me, Myself, and I was a gigantic record. They did Say No Go, which was cool, but it wasn't Me, Myself, and I. Third single, they remixed Buddy with the good, made it more radio friendly with the Good Times beat, and that took the album to where it needed to go. I think if they had came with the original Buddy, it wouldn't have been as big as the remix Buddy. Following year, De La Soul is Dead. The first single, Hey, How You Doing? Sorry You Can't Get Through. Smooth beat, Peach the President drums, nice melody in the hook. Record company loved that. Second single, which I always felt should have been Oodles of O's. That was the record that was rocking in the clubs. But the record company came with Saturday. I love Saturday as well, but it had the singing. They was on the formula even before the Chronic and Puff. 5 days of work, one more day to play, and Saturday. Radio record company wanted Saturday. And it did well, but it didn't do. I think Oodles of O's would have been the one. But true, you guys got to understand the pressure that's behind you. Um, the pressure that record companies come with on these artists while you're in the studio trying to make an album. KP, Love Me or Leave Me Alone. Mary was singing on that too. I didn't know that. Commercial record. Yeah, B-Boy Jones. Royalty and Discipline. I think those records took Gangstar over the hump. I see y'all talking about Jasmine Taz. That didn't go gold. Jay-Z had Babyface on the hook with Sunshine. Yeah, he went for it. Jay-Z went for it. But even Ain't Like the One I Got, The Formula. No, you better. Gold single. I'm gonna jump off, y'all. We were super behind. It was super OT. I just want to get to hear some of you guys' opinions of what I'm saying about the transition. Let me scroll down a little bit more. D Nizzy, KP, World Peace. You said World Peace should have been a bigger song. Absolutely. They dropped the ball on that. Liquid Swords came out a few months before Only Built for Cuban Links and still went gold. I think it went platinum without a commercial song. True. Um, I agree with that. But Wu-Tang was so on fire too as well. And at 95, like I said, that was right there. But 95 was right there. But that's an exception to the rule. But look how hot Wu-Tang was. Rich Shot said KP so way behind. I'm caught up now. I'm jumping off. C. Rose says like Michael Jackson chased Thriller. Yep. Classic example. Mike spent the whole rest of his career chasing Thriller, which I always felt like he should have did Off the Wall. We wanted another Off the Wall. That's what made Prince dope, because Prince never chased Purple Rain. He did Purple Rain, and he went completely away from it. And he never reached the heights of Purple Rain, but he had a bunch of big records. Once you do the biggest album of all time, like where do you go from there, man? We're in OT. I'm jumping off. I'm jumping off. I'm jumping off. Um, Corey Flood says Oodles of O's would have been a misfire as a single. Might have been a fun video, but not as a single. I thought in the clubs in New York where I was at, and I used to DJ a couple of them, when you throwing Oodles of O's off the album, everybody was dancing. That when the album first came out, that was one of the records that was bubbling up. And I always go with what the people are picking, but they wanted Saturday. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think that would have been a dope single. CMC says we love it. Double OT is dope. I'm gonna get off, y'all. This is too long. And the Rewind crew is not even gonna watch this. It's gonna be too long. Yeah, I meant Heartbeat, not Good Times. Yeah, on Buddy. Why is Pooh Bah not as big as he should be? That we should start off Tuesday with that conversation. All right, let me go to the very bottom. At the very bottom, and I'm gonna jump off. All right, y'all, we getting out of here. Yeah, we're getting out of here. It's 10:10. It's 10:11. Jason Wall says, didn't really like Prince after Purple Rain musically. Wow, Jason Wall. You didn't like Kiss? Kiss was number one. You didn't like Adore? First of all, that whole album. What? You didn't like Pop Life and all that? I feel you, Jason Wall, but I'm just saying. All right. This is the Kenny Parker Show. I'm jumping off. I'm trying to get the last comments. Jason Wall says Pop Life was okay. Wow. I respect that. All right, y'all. I'm jumping off. We super behind. Good night, y'all. God willing, I'll see everybody on Tuesday. Robert Trower says Biddy's in the BK Lounge. Love that record too. I'll see you guys on Tuesday, God willing. Big up to the Rewind crew. I'm out of here. This was super OT, y'all. All right, I'm out. Peace.